Above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming to you on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. And we can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. And a guy who's been on my radar for some time, cat who was very much instrumental in certain regional pockets of music in our country for a long period of time. Have finally the spirits crossed, and we have been able to connect telephonically. And without further ado, Sam Morrison, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you.
How you doing, brother?
I'm okay. Just took my morning swim.
Yeah, you know what? After I pick my girls up, I go do my afternoon swim. I've noticed better flexibility for myself. At 39, I mean, I'm starting to feel a little bit old now. But that's great. Can you talk about the lifelong learning of yourself as it relates to your own musical evolution? Like, what are you learning about yourself right now?
Well, I'm kind of learning how to focus on incorporating a lot of the things I learned earlier in life, and in performing and playing music and listening to music, and trying to put it all together and make it make it advancement. Getting closer to the edge, kind of. I've been doing a lot of electronic music for the last 5 years, and it's getting a chance to play with Michael and Patrick, doing the music of Miles, kind of puts all that together.
Can you talk not even about this, because we're going to vet this project pretty hard. I mean, I might have to take an overnight Amtrak up to Seattle or wherever the gig is going to be to come to hang. But
wow.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. But the thing is that can you talk about something early in your career that happened that was sort of a blur that you now are looking to focus on and sort of sink in more? If I'm reading that correctly, could you talk a little bit about one example, maybe?
With them or on my own?
No, just your own evolution.
Oh well. It came about, I think, with the development of music software on Macintosh, first Pro Tools and Logic, where I was able to kind of figure it out and start being able to compose and perform electronic music, along with playing saxophone. So I was able to use stuff I had learned, over long period of years, either playing with, first started playing really with Michael back in 74 and with Patrick, and then soon after that I was playing with Miles, and that was kind of a real edgy band that he had, one of the most, probably the most edgy band that he had, with Pete Cozy playing guitar synth.
Oh my God, Cozy.
Yeah, I mean, I would stand right next to him all the time, and I'd be watching. I even had an EMS Synthy. That's what he used to use, with the crazy oscillators in there, and known for drifting. And I tried to get more into electronic composition on my own back then, but it required a lot of equipment and patience. So when this stuff became available. Logic and Pro Tools became available, I don't know, 15 years ago, I guess, something like that. I really got into it, and I was able to figure out in a couple of minutes how I could make compositions on it. And after that, it was like, so the next two albums I did after that were, all done in Pro Tools. Actually, 3 albums. I did one. The first one was in Pro Tools, and the next 2 were in Logic. And the next 2 I did all by myself, pretty much. Except I had, a hand up with a few overdubs. and it was great, because I live upstate New York. It's not easy to get other people recording and all that, so I was able to do it on my own. And I started sending tracks to Michael, and that's how we hooked up all these years later.
I wanted to read you this passage from Randy Brecker, and then get your take on it. He said, let's see here. Playing music is seen as a musician's gift to the world. We're supposed to hand out our music for free, and that's not in stride with what I was brought up to do. As a player, I don't think people have respect for how much time and work goes into practicing your instrument and trying to write music. It's not fun in that respect, and we want to be paid for it. There are parallel realities going on in pop music. You do have machines practically involved in almost every record you hear, even the stuff coming out of Nashville, although it seems that's where most of the musicians have settled. They're playing on the newer country scene, and I like to hear that. On the general pop music scene and urban scene, it's mostly just hip-hop machines with a rapper or one or two guys scratching. Even when you see a lot of guys on TV, they're kind of faking it. It's very sad for me. I like to see a band play. Now, I mean, he just was being honest. I mean, he clearly is not a wet blanket kind of cat. But, I mean, have machines gotten in the way of humanity? I realize that it's easier, it's more efficient, and maybe you can replicate the sounds. But ultimately, it's the heart. It's the individual heart of each cat that makes it that makes music so spiritual. So I just kind of wanted you to riff on that.
Well, if one person is doing it with using a machine, a computer, we'll say, it's still their heart that's involved. It would be like as if I go out and play sax solo in the street. Okay, it's just me playing the saxophone, and it's my being, my essence that's coming out. But it's the same thing if you use it. To me, it is, because I program all the computer stuff. I mean, I come up with the lines. I find the sounds that I like, and in a sense, it's more complete. It's like going, like a classical composer writing out a piece for an orchestra. Okay, it's not their freedom to communicate the music is not the same as somebody who's improvising in a quintet or playing jazz on stage. They don't choose the actual notes. The notes are already written out for them, right?
Right.
So they have more freedom. But if you go back to the composer's, inspiration, what he hears, okay, he's writing all the notes. So now instead of having an orchestra play them, which can be a very expensive proposition, especially when you're making, you get a hit, if somebody hits it on Spotify or something, you get 0.0001 penny,
No, I mean, yeah, no.
Money to pay for that.
Sure.
And I think that's in part what he's complaining about, that you're not getting people getting all the music for free. I don't get any money off of putting out the last two CDs. I got 3 CDs ago. I got some money. I sold some on CD Baby, and you get some money. But lately, it's just been really it's much more difficult to sell CDs, because when you put it out on CD Baby, it's all listed for free all over the internet. Whether it's MP3, it's some places it might be even CD quality. I'm not really positive about that. But in any case, there's frustration over that for sure. But as far as the mechanical, using machines to make music, if you can make them do what you want, then I think it's cool. And I love electronic music. I like the sound.
I guess what I'm saying is the idea of when you guys are going to be playing Gleason and Shrieve, it's like, you guys have huge ears. You're going to be listening to each other. You learned from, in many ways, you guys had brushes with the original masters of a lot of this music. So there's a human component to it, but the idea of a musician's gift to the world, where did that come from? I know, like Michael, when you guys connected originally, and he was making that album for Columbia, I don't think it ever even came out. And I realize the business is not it's a tough business. But how have we reached a point where in our society where, at least in this country, because you can't quantify music, you can't. It's not seen as a profession anymore, where it was when you first started coming up. I mean, cats like Dizzy and Miles, they weren't millionaires, but they were treated with royalty because they had skill, and they also got compensated for it. And I just don't understand how we reached this point. Maybe you could take us through that evolution, because, like you said, you've just been trying to swing it on CD Baby and whatnot.
Well, it just seems to have gone that way because everybody's capable of making music, in their computer. Okay, you can record live musicians in your computer. You can generate the music with computer assisted, music generation programs. So there's a lot more vast quantities of music coming out now from people without having to go into a recording studio. So it's just evolved a lot over the last 20 or so years. To where it's more difficult to, there's a lot more to choose from for people, and it's more difficult to actually generate, large sums of money for the independent musician because they're not being compensated for it. As far as creating people like, Miles, Miles is the biggest one. I'm sure that as far as money goes in the jazz industry back then, he didn't always have it that easy either.
Right.
There were periods of time where, back, I guess early 70s, around On the Corner and things like that, where his music wasn't being promoted as well, where he didn't generate that much income, and he might have, I don't know if he was actually making money doing gigs,
Right, absolutely.
So things gradually changed. Things have gradually changed to the point where they are now.
Right. I mean, do you think that it's all cyclical? I mean, will it swing back to the point of like where it's not just pay to play or play for the door, or where's your? I mean, like in a town like Tucson, there's just a treasure, and there's also an issue with just supply and demand, because you're cranking out musicians coming out of these prestigious schools all over the country, and they don't have any places to play. I mean, that's the other part.
Yeah, exactly. It's and also the audience that's being that's being generated for this. It doesn't feel to me like it's cyclical. It feels to me like it's it's a downward trend. Age factors and people are changing. I just saw some posting on Google, something about millenniums are changing. Putting companies out of business because they don't want to listen to this or do this anymore. They don't want to buy soap, or they don't want to buy, whatever. They don't want to go to Applebee's. And the countries, and companies are doing badly just because the attitudes have changed. And it's the same thing with music. People, what they listen to, may be changing to a large degree, and that affects things as well. Things don't remain static. But either way, once you're dedicated to doing music, you use the best tools that you can find, and just keep making music. I don't have a choice.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
I kind of never did. That's what it feels like. I mean, from the time I played, after I played with Miles, I was did the thing with Michael, and then within a year I was playing with Miles, and from then on, I was kind of hooked.
How did you originally connect with Michael Shrieve?
His brother Kevin and I went to Columbia together. We were freshmen the same year, and we became best friends. And that was when Michael was at the height of Santana. We used to go to Fillmore East, like, I don't know, once or twice a month. And we get in for free because Bill Graham was Santana's manager.
Absolutely.
And we'd go see. Saw Santana there, of course, and that's when I met Michael the very first time. But I was just his brother's friend, and he was a rock star. And so that was that's how I met Michael. But when I went out to moved to San Francisco after graduating at Columbia, and then we hooked up again and I played him some music, and he liked it, and then I just ended up recording with him.
Well, I mean, going back to Columbia, you got to talk to me about you and Kevin. Kevin was playing that wah pedal on his guitar too. I mean, you guys must have been doing some serious experimental stuff there. Can you break down the musical enclave of Columbia? I'm a Long Island cat, so you know, I mean, at that
we didn't actually perform that much at Columbia. Kevin,
obviously, you know, this is more like free form stuff.
Yeah, Kevin took a leave of absence, I guess. So we both did at different points. So we were at Columbia the first year together, and then later on it was, I don't know, maybe junior year or something like that, you know. And then he went back to California, and then I went out there after I graduated. So we're talking, you know, for a few years. But yeah, we did play, but we hooked up initially just playing in the lobby of John Jay dormitory, you know, at the piano.
Oh, this is fantastic. The John Upper West Side of Manhattan, a very beautiful area now. It was kind of an interesting time. Must have been a very multi-ethnic area at that time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always used to go. I'd go hang out in the Village all the time when I was in freshman year, sophomore year.
Because what I'm trying to get at, this is about sonic expansion. You know, my show is about enlightenment through sonic expansion, and I mean, what was your I mean, were you channeling Rahsaan Roland Kirk or with the multiple reeds? Before even the early electronics, I can dig, you know, but I'm talking like before Macintoshes and, you know, Pro Tools came in. I mean, who were you?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I want to know who was stretching your ears out in the Village that you were going to see.
I saw Coltrane live in '66 when I was about 14.
Who was in that band?
I went.
Who was it? Workman?
His wife was in the band. Alice was there. And
man.
I think Farrow went on stage. It was opened up. The opening set was Ornette, and I wasn't as into Ornette then as I was to Train. But Ornette was great. Now I mean, since then I love Ornette. At that time, you know, plus he was playing tenor, and I was totally. I bought a Love Supreme when it first came out when I was in like 8th grade or something, and you know, so I had Miles' music. I learned about them first by listening to radio shows. You know, there were some jazz shows that played that music back. You know, you could barely get them on your radio, but you could tune them in long enough to hear it.
Where were you?
Buying the records.
You grew up in the city, or where were you at?
No, I was Long Island.
Where?
South Shore, Long
Where?
Island. Oceanside.
Oh, I'm a Stony Brook cat. Yeah, that's great. So because like this cat Ed Beach, I think he had like a
Ed Beach. Yes, I listened to Ed Beach.
Was he one of the cats that was playing Train in those cats? Because he had like that Riverside church, or he plays some music out of a church.
He did it out of Ed Beach was out of Riverside, I think, Riverside Church, maybe. I don't know that I got turned on to Train through him. A lot of jazz. It took me a couple of years to build up. I mean, I started with 7th grade. I started with like Benny Goodman, which I loved. Benny Goodman, you know, the quartet.
It was a small combo stuff.
That came out.
That's great. Yeah.
You with Teddy Wilson, Cooper, and anyway. That was that's probably the first jazz record I ever bought, and within like a year later, I was listening to Cannonball and Train and Miles. I love Stan Getz. And
yeah, right.
You know, it just kind of built up. And when I got to, by the time I got to college, I remember buying Bitches Brew, and Bitches Brew I had trouble getting into. And then all of a sudden, I'll go into how, but all of a sudden one day it hit me. Sometime during, I think, that could have been sophomore year.
I just wanted to, this is interesting. I did not, I'm producing a film documentary on Stan Getz. And did you get hip to like the stuff prior to, the Bossa stuff? I mean, I'm talking like, you said you were you saw Train and Ornette in '66, but like Stan's work with Scotty LaFaro from '61 is like, I just wanted to know what pocket of Getz if you saw him live, because I mean that dude was so out of his mind. He was at the height of his career making millions of dollars, and at the same time drinking 10 glasses of neat scotch and you know and putting his foot through the door of the Irvington mansion where his family lived at the insanity. And then he was on the stage the next night with a walking boot on, you know, backing up, you know, playing next to like Nina Simone. So what was your? I mean, did you just get off on Getz in the Bossa years, or was it even before that? Because that dude was.
Yeah, no, I don't think I knew much about those records were a little bit harder to get.
You're damn
I
right.
I got
they
them
are.
later.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I had, you know, I had some. I have some 10-inch records of Stan's. You know, that I got like maybe 25 years ago.
Wait,
but
like
I
the
think
bebop,
at that point,
the bebop records, like because
the early 50s, the early 50s.
Oh
stuff.
my God, are you kidding? You got 10
Killer
inches
stuff.
of those?
I got to look for them. I don't know where they went. I don't know if I was broke one day and I sold some. I can't remember, but I love
No,
those
dude,
records.
I'm telling you,
know, they've
Steve-
been re-released.
Yeah, no, Steve.
They've been re-released.
Yeah, but I only collect vinyl. But Steve Gadd, last time I'd interviewed Gadd, he said that in his car he can't stop listening to this drummerless quartet with Herb Ellis, Ray Brown, Oscar Peterson, and Stan Getz from '53. I mean, it's like burning. It's burning. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, but going back, so I just this is so important because music is made for pacification today on the larger scale. It's not meant for burning or spiritualism. Even though you didn't necessarily get off on Ornette when you saw him live, can you talk about?
Yeah.
Can you talk? Can you just talk about? Break down the spiritual quality of seeing Ornette live and Train live, and ultimately how it impacted you as an individual, because music in our culture had a very different significance at that time, and I just find it to be incredibly important for peeps like you who went to see this kind of stuff, how it had an absolutely like lifelong transcendent impact on you.
Okay, well, Ornette, you know, I don't think I was like harmonically or ready for Ornette quite at that time yet. You know, I was still like 14 years old. I was 14 or 15.
So great that you really, and they let you in the club.
Ornette was really heavy. You know, I mean, I love Ornette. I saw him live maybe 20 years ago, 25 years. No, seven. Must have been 2000. I saw him, so 17 years ago, when he was down in Lower Manhattan. And I was really into it. And since that period, I listened to a lot of Ornette, and I love Ornette's music. It's just I love the album he did on tenor. It blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. But I was just into tenor more at the time, and being a kid, developing my own, you know, direction. That I was more, and I was listening to Train all the time at that point. At that point, I don't think I was listening to Stan Getz that much. I was listening mostly to Train.
Wow.
And I must have had 10 or 15 Train records, you know, on Impulse at that point. And
God.
I had a couple of the earlier ones from Prestige, like the re-release. I remember having a double album that was a re-release on Prestige of Train with kind of a medium, you know, 10-piece band maybe that I used to listen to all the time. So I was really into Train, and Ornette was great, but Train blew me away. I mean, like Train, it was, I don't know, it was like I felt like he was practically levitating on the stage. Like he was up at the top, up by the ceiling, and everybody else down at the bottom, and he was like spiritually, like, just blew me away. I don't know if he knew, you know, he died 6 months later.
He was really sick. Yeah, he had double drums at that time, right? He had like Rossi.
Yeah. He had double drums. I can't even remember, double bass maybe. Oh. You know, it's just it was phenomenal, and he was doing all the spiritual, you know, modal stuff that just transcended, you know, the whole physical elements, you know. I was sitting pretty high up. I remember closing my eyes, and I felt like Train was up, like at the top of the auditorium. It was mind-blowing how heavy it was. I mean, I never experienced music like that. The only thing that, you know, really got me, it blew me away like that was like the first time I joined Miles on stage, was standing next to him playing on stage with him and off of what he was playing.
Well, we'll get
like, it was as heavy as that.
No, I mean, the idea is that I just want to get an idea here, because Jimmy Cobb, this is going back to like the earlier, like 61, and, you know, Train's music was being dubbed angry message music by white journalists like myself, when in fact it was like, you know, a search for his own peace and his own enlightenment. But was it just that they'd open with some kind of recognizable standard, play the head, and then once they went off into improvisation, it would go on for 20 minutes? Because, you go see a jazz, whatever you think of that word jazz, you go see a jazz set now, and it's like, 8 tunes, 5 minutes, very formulaic, cut and dry. I mean, you don't see a lot of, and I'm just trying to get the idea of what was so, the levitational quality was that it was that a standard tune, they'd break up the time and then it would wind up going on for 25 minutes. Is that what was just so insane about it?
Well, if he didn't play standard tunes at the point where I was seeing him, he was playing his own music, which is more modal, like a Love Supreme or whatever. But the things, if you're going back to 60 or 61, you're talking like My Favorite Things, which I bought. That influenced me a lot. But the thing that was cool about it is that they stated the melody. They did their own interpretation of the song with the melody. McCoy playing the piano vamp that he was doing,
absolutely,
with the modal vamp over the beginning, and then Train dropping out and letting the rhythm section have it, before he comes in.
For how long? For how long?
For a while. McCoy. They did that whole thing for a while. My Favorite Things, and that kind of, that was it drew you in. It wasn't that avant-garde or anything, Train had an appreciation of that, of being able to, to draw people into his music and make it listenable. He got more, the further on he got, the more out that it became. But he took the listener with him,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I felt, So, and that took a few years, because My Favorite Things. I think it's 60 or 60.
Well, no, and I just, what I was getting at is, like, when you were getting his records, like the Impulse stuff from the when you saw him, where was it, the Village Gate, by the way? Where did you see him?
No, I saw him at the Village Theater, which later became Fillmore East.
You saw him you saw him at what would eventually become the Fillmore East, and it was called the Village.
Yes.
Oh, that is so ridiculous. So there was a balcony. I wasn't around. I wasn't even born until '78. So you're telling me that you're telling me that this was. I'd never been to the Fillmore East, but you were upstairs, and he was just levitating. How much of it though? Like, this is so great because you get cats that go to shows and they buy the album and then they go to any. It could be any kind of music, and they go expecting to hear the exact same thing that's played on the record. And was that was that similar to Train? Because he did a lot of live Impulse stuff on Impulse. So I mean, but in the studio sense, did you find like those mid '60s Train records? You'd go and was it different or the same as it was on the record when you would see him live?
Oh, this was different. That was the records were like a starting point,
right,
for me listening. And this was like this was a phenomenal experience. There were like 10 people on stage, and with the harp and double drums. I can't remember if it was double drums and double bass. I'm
serious. No, I hung with.
It was like 50 years ago.
You remember you remember that conga player Big Black, right? He told me when I went to visit him that he got a chance to sit in with Train right after you saw him, right in that period of time, and he was dying of, I guess, liver cancer. He had liver disease or something like that, and he had the Bible. Yeah. He had the Bible with him, and he was saying he was reciting prayers out of the Bible, and there were double drums, double upright basses, and just. What an emotion!
Kind of what I remember.
I mean, how much of an impact did I mean? This is going to seem simplistic, but did Train? Was he fundamentally the most inspiring musician in the history of modern music? Because I mean, he inspired. The more I look at it, the Grateful Dead were completely inspired by him. I believe Carlos Santana was. I mean, I just take it from you when you step back and look at him. I don't want to leave anybody out because Mingus was amazing, and before him it was and Dizzy, and these guys were incredible.
Yeah, I listened to all those guys. I mean, I love Mingus. I forget the name of the album I had, but I love listening to Mingus. But Train was the one that really, seeing him live like that was, like I said, was unbelievable, phenomenal. Whether he influenced me the most in early saxophone playing, but later on, when I played with Miles. Miles influenced me a lot in saxophone playing too.
Really?
Yeah, I started, the way Miles put together his lines and the things that he used to do. Kind of, I really love that. And so it was kind of a lot different than Train. And so, like, getting back to what I'm doing with Michael and Patrick.
Sure.
It's I kind of approach it more from Miles' perspective as an instrumentalist, playing over the the soundtrack that they generate, as opposed to the train thing at this point in my playing. That's I've done a few of these things. I play with Michael Henderson with the Electric Miles band. We've done a few things. I don't think he's doing that right now anymore, but we did 5 or 6 years ago. We were doing it a bunch.
Wait. Michael. Wait, I'm sorry. This is how naive. Michael Henderson is still cooking the groove these days.
Michael Henderson, right now he's doing more of an R&B stuff. He's booking a lot of concerts with the R&B because he was a singer. He had a bunch of hits.
Well, because when Michael Shrieve and I first connected, what kind of locked us in our first interview is that I had this Mercurial Pacific Standard Oil record that was like, highlighting all these. It was just wonderfully done. They had everybody from Francisco. They had different sides, but it was highlighting Afro-Cuban percussion, Francisco Aguabella, Quasi Badu from Africa. And then there was this one, side 3 was Michael Shrieve. This was 73, like you said, the heart of Santana. And it was a mixture of talk and then music. So Michael was in his basement and he was talking like one of his Latin brothers. At the time, he was trying to sound like one of the Carabello, whoever he's hanging out with, and it was like and the band that was grooving was it was Michael Henderson, Kevin Shrieve, and Michael Shrieve. I have this on vinyl. It's one of and so I played it for him, and he was laughing hysterically because you can't find this thing. It's not been re-released, but so it was so open because Henderson just his notes were so round and his placement was so good. But that's when you were you involved with that band? I mean, did you play with Henderson and those cats when you were out to San Francisco at that point?
Yeah, well, Michael's album to Columbia, Michael Henderson played bass on.
And that album,
how I hooked up with Michael Henderson.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Kevin went out to San Francisco. You saw Michael play with Santana at the Fillmore East. He was a rock star. Then at that point it was like, hey, let's go out. San Francisco's happening. Let's go out there. How did that transpire?
After graduating, I wanted to go back out to the West Coast. I had been out there several times. That's where I started developing, playing professionally. I used to play in black clubs and one, I guess. I took half a year off.
Hold on. Which in Oakland or San Francisco?
Both. I played with bands from Oakland, but we go down the peninsula. I played in East Palo Alto a lot.
Well, you played at the Poppycock, or where were you playing?
No, Club 4 is the place we played at.
You were playing in what years was that? This is unbelievable.
71. This is 70, 71. I played with a bunch of guys there, and I think I played with a bass player. And I think I played with T-Bone Walker down there too. A couple of late after hours gigs. I got called.
Oh, that's unbelievable! You played. Yeah, you didn't think you. So you were playing. Club 4 was called. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Club 4.
And then were you going into the? Well, I mean, it was a few years afterward. There was like the Haight Flats. There was like really weird, crazy electronic music going on. Like very beginnings of it But you got to break this down. Who were you playing with also out there at that time? I mean, that's unbelievable.
I forget his name. His name is Alvin. He's a blues guy. And I did that summer of freshman year when I first went out to California. I played with him. I stayed at Kevin's house, and the last month I was there, I played with Alvin. And then I went back a year later and played with him again, a slightly different band. And I was out there for the whole semester. I took a semester off. And then I went out again after I graduated. And then this is the time I was playing, when I did the recording with Michael. This would be later, 74. And at that point, I was playing with a lot of Latin bands because I hooked up with Michael, and then I was playing with Chipito from Santana. I played in his band.
Wow!
And hooked up with a lot of Latin bands. So that time I was playing less with the black bands and playing more with the Latin bands.
Wow!
And then I went back to New York in '75 because there wasn't enough to keep me going in San Francisco, and that's when I joined. Got in with Miles.
When can you talk about that actual session with Michael? Like, I mean, was it all done live? Everybody there? I mean, again, that has not seen the light of day, and it's got some incredible. He sent me some tracks that I've listened to, and I just wanted you to take us through that. You were staying at Kevin's house, and he's like, "Hey, my brother's he cut a solo album. You want to?"
Okay, 74. That was 74. I had an apartment in Upper Haight-Ashbury.
Nice.
And I was I was going to the studio. We recorded it. Some of it was recorded at Patrick's studio, Different Fur, and some of it was recorded at CBS. And a lot of it was overdubbed. We had it'll be 2-3 guys. I was in the studio with Michael Henderson at that point, but Michael was doing vocals. Those were overdubs. They would do the rhythm tracks, and then you go in and do the vocals. And so, that was the way stuff was recorded back then, especially at CBS. They would work on the drum sound for a while, and they'd spend a whole day getting the drum sound together, and then they go back and start recording tracks, bass and drums.
So I mean, was that the first time that, I mean, had Michael, he hadn't left Santana at that point. He was still with Santana, and he just was going out and making.
Yeah, I think he was, because I hung out with Carlos there too. At some point, I remember sitting with Carlos outside a SIR one day, and he was playing Miles music for me, and some other stuff, and had incense in the car. So I think Michael is still hooked up with Santana.
Yeah, no, because I think that epic live show from Japan happened like in '75 or a year later or something like that. But you were. Yeah. But the idea was that, I mean, you basically Kevin was the one that helped you get into this. I'm just trying to figure out how Michael would have faith unless he knew that you really could play. I mean, that you could get into the studio and play on that record. How did he decide that you were going
well, we hung out a little bit. Kevin took me out. I remember going up to his house in Orinda and jamming, me and Michael, just sax and drum.
Oh, man. Where are the tapes of that? Where are the tapes of that?
Yeah, there's no tape. This had to be 74.
Right.
And
oh, man.
So I had played with him a little bit. I don't remember I hadn't known him on and off for a few years. Even when I was there in 71 or 72, I remember jamming with him at the house up in Mill Valley. I can remember a jam session in Mill Valley, seriously, with Dave Garibaldi and Michael.
Double drums? Double drums?
No, I don't think they had. I think there was only one set, but I'm not sure. But Kevin and I were there, and then the horn section from Tower Power was there.
Mick Gillette, and all those Mick Gillette and Doc Cook. Yeah, that's okay. So that's unbelievable. This is mind blowing.
And the Pointer Sisters.
Oh my God! Well,
and all 3 Pointer Sisters and Elvin Bishop. That's what I remember right now.
And that was at because Michael had like a mansion on top of a big overlook into on the mount. Was that when he was living on the hill somewhere? Or was that in Mill Valley?
It was a hill. It was at Mill Valley. I remember it was kind of a Mill Valley house, big house.
So really,
you know,
the seed was planted in 71, 72, and then you came back and started playing just horn drums.
Yeah.
You played horn drums, and
Yeah, I've been thinking about this lately. I mean, I came back and went back and forth between San Francisco and New York, between going to school at Columbia and taking time off and going back out to California and playing gigs. You know, getting more, professional experience.
Were you taking? Were you driving or taking planes? I mean, that's not. I mean, this is.
Yeah, a couple times I drove, a couple times I took planes.
I dig.
You know.
Yeah. No, so this is phenomenal. So and even though you were out, you really can say definitively by 75 there was not enough for you going on. Had you even crossed paths with Miles when you decided to move back to New York, or that was just a run-in once you got back there?
No, what happened was, I just felt like going back to New York because I wanted to. I just felt like it was calling me or something, and there wasn't that much gigs, steady work in San Francisco. I mean, I had some good gigs and was playing around, but I wanted to play more.
Sure.
And I knew there was a whole loft scene you could play in New York, and top quality guys, jazz guys were in New York, and so and Michael Henderson and I had become friends, and he had told me he was going to get me into Miles' band soon. So I went back to New York, and I was there like 2 months, and I had a day gig. My aunt got me a day gig filing papers at the Board of Ed in Brooklyn.
Nice. Oh, that's great.
I was working and I'd go out and play music at night, but I really hadn't been playing much that last few weeks. And then Michael Henderson called my house. I wasn't home, and told me to come up to Boston that night to play with Miles. And so I got a flight up there and played with him and copped the gig.
Was it at Paul's Mall? Where was the gig?
Yeah, that was Paul's Mall.
Oh my God! And so that band,
that's the one. Yeah,
that was essentially.
It's online.
It's online.
The actual recordings of that night are online. I have them of that night and that 3 or 4 days I was up there.
So most,
you can hear it.
Most, being a Gen Xer and then having millennials underneath, most of them would be. I mean, can you just talk about how Miles? I remember when DeJeanette told me. He was talking about Train playing late in Chicago. This is going back probably like early '60s or something like that, and he just said that at a certain point, Jack had a good reputation around town, and Elvin for some reason didn't show up for the last set, and so they said, yeah, let's give this guy a chance, and so Jack walked up on stage, and Coltrane didn't say anything to him. He just nodded at him, and then they went to work. And it was this. Here we are. So that was more of a jam session. But this is like Michael obviously Henderson gave you good feedback to Miles. But can you just talk about how Miles made you feel as comfortable as possible, or what he did in a nonverbal way to exude leadership on the bandstand? Because we're in such a verbose time. Everybody hangs on words. Everybody's lawyering up now. And the fact is that like McLaughlin, I've done a few interviews. He's like, dude, Miles was a Zen master. He's a Zen master the way he did certain things. So, here you are filing papers. Henderson gives you the call. You fly up to Boston, and you're just supposed to, maybe you heard his records, the more recent stuff. How did he assimilate you into that group so effectively, and how did he make you feel comfortable?
Well, I went back stage before I played, and he goes, are you just white or can you play?
What did he say?
With his Miles voice.
What did he say?
Are you just white or can you play? But I can hear him say, "Are you just white or can you play?"
Right, sure. And you're like, I can play, dude.
And I said, "You decide,"
Right.
and then
wow, you threw it back.
and then
You
I
threw
went
it back
and
to
played
him.
it. Yeah,
Oh man.
and he just like he dropped out and just like pointed to me to come over to the mic, and play. And so and he let me play for a long time, like 10 minutes maybe.
This is in sound check or before the show or what? What?
No, this is in the middle of. Sonny Fortune played the first set. I showed up. I played the second set. I didn't get the call until 3 in the afternoon.
Wait,
I got a message. I wasn't home.
Sonny Fortune played the first set. You fly into Logan, take a cab over with your horn, and then
exactly.
And then in the set break, he said, "Are you white or can you play?" Is that and then when you said you decide, and then at the first tune, he just said, "Go up and blow."
Yeah, he played with Mike, and they let me play 10 minutes, and then I played the whole set, and then Sonny didn't play that set, and then I came back in, and he said, you play your ass off, something like that. You play your white ass off, and then the roadies asked him, well, who should he set up for the third set? Who should he set up for? They said, set up for the white boy.
Why? Wait, I mean, this was, and so basically this was like what's the philosophy there? I mean, why not have you and Sonny up there? Was it he was basically trying to, this is fascinating. Sonny was just sitting at the table after playing a set, and then all of a sudden, Sam Morrison's blowing his white butt off, and that's how it worked?
I don't know. I don't know I have no idea what was going on between the two of them.
Oh my God, this is insane.
That's I'm like this. I was 22 years old.
Oh, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's certainly an unbelievable happening. If you had asked me earlier in the day while I was filing papers at the board event, you could be any place else other than here. You could do anything in the whole world other than be here right now. What would you want? I said I'd be playing with Miles Davis. Right. That's what I would have said. And then to have that happen later that night was incredible. And he got me a suite, a huge room at a hotel. I don't know if it was a Hilton. I'm not sure what it was in.
I dig. It was on
Boston,
probably on Newberry. This is ridiculous. And then so the third set, and you're still just blowing your white butt off. And then after that, he's like, "Stick around tomorrow." I mean, did you have it? Were you locked in after that?
Yeah, after that I was hired. After the second set I was hired. That's what it seemed like. That was it.
Yeah, but so basically the second set was a tryout, and if you I dig. And so then the third set you were fully on board. And did Sonny Fortune ever enter the picture again, or was he gone?
He left, I think, between the second and the third set. I think.
But what I'm getting at is when you continued on, was he out of the band at that point?
Yeah.
Wow, you took his.
Yeah, I think he split after the second set when Miles had to set up for me.
Wow.
I think that's what happened.
Wow.
But, it's a little vague in my memory. But,
Sonny was. I mean, it's interesting. It's almost like because Sonny was just beginning to branch off and start to do his own albums as a leader. He did a bunch of stuff on Strata East, and I've interviewed Sonny. He's a badass dude. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Morrison just kicking ass up there. So then. Here's the question, though. I've always been flummoxed by this because I was a late bloomer when it came to music, and I play a little bit modified trap sets, and I'm not really a musician by any stretch, but I love talking to the cats and getting enlightened. And I look at Miles, and I don't necessarily. It's not like my first call stuff. I mean, you talked about Bitches Brew, having a hard time getting your ear around that, but even the On the Corner or Big Fun or I don't know. All those early 70s leading up to like 75, and then he just kind of just dropped out. Like he just left. Like he just left the scene. And I'm just trying to figure out did he leave the scene? He just stopped. He didn't cut albums for a minute. And I'm just trying to figure out why did he actually leave? Because rest in peace, I've done 2 interviews with Coryell. I've been seeing the Miles documentary. But the documentary is about Larry Coryell and Miles working with Coryell in 78. But I wanted to...
Yeah, I haven't seen that, I saw the Don Cheadle movie, but I didn't see the Larry.
No, the Cheadle film. That's the one. That movie's about Coryell. That focuses on Coryell. 1978.
Oh, yeah. I don't really know much about the. I think it was 77 maybe, but we were in the studio in 76. After he had already retired, and he recorded one of my songs, but he fell down in the bathroom before we went to the studio and hurt his arm really bad, and he couldn't play trumpet for a while, and so we went in and recorded anyway, and he did one of my songs, but because he actually did the same song that Michael Shrieve did on his record 2 years ago. There's another time it didn't come out again. This is so there's a trumpet track on it. So that's what it was unfortunate to me, kind of, because otherwise I would have had a cut on.
You would have gotten writing credits on that, right? I mean, that's the. Yeah,
I would have gotten royalties.
So I want to be very clear though. When you showed up at the Paul's Mall and got the gig, how did you find out that Miles was retiring, and why did he quote unquote retire?
No, the Paul's Mall is like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months before he actually retired.
Right. So
we did gigs that summer.
Right.
We did gigs that summer.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But I mean, can you explain to the audience why he retired?
Well, he was sick. He was getting treatments he had ulcers, and he might have had at that point some cancer. I forget what it was.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't feeling well. The medication he took for cancer or something was aggravating his ulcers, and so he wasn't, he wasn't doing well physically. That was one thing. I mean, I think that was the most important thing. But we did the gig at Central Park. I think that might have been July or August. And then we were supposed to go to Atlanta, and the whole band on the plane, but Miles never got there. And then the pilot announces with the Miles Davis band, please exit the plane. that was it. And then he went into a retirement. And then a year later is when we all went back to record with him at CBS in New York, and we were all at his house, his brownstone, or limestone, I guess.
Yeah.
And I got there. I was the first one there. Probably he wanted me there early for some reason, so I got there early, and I guess during the day he had been drinking like a 6-pack of Heineken or something. And he lost his balance and fell down upstairs in the bathroom. We were all downstairs. And we heard it fall. And then he came down, and he had his arm was cut. He cut it on this bathroom scale that came out of the wall, and it was bleeding pretty badly. So he got taken over to New York Hospital, and he came back, and his arm was in a sling a few hours later. So we didn't go in and record that day, but we went in the next day, and Miles was supposed to overdub, but he never did. So, and that's what happened. Some of those tracks are available. You can hear them in different places.
I just want to be clear. He retired, and you 75 is when you played with him, and then you came back in 76 and got in the studio. That's when he fell. Is that the chronology?
Yeah, 76. Yeah, 76 is when he went back in the studio. He had been in retirement for, I don't know, 8 months or a year. I can't remember exactly.
Could you talk a little bit? I'm curious about this. Is so important because what was what was the band sonically channeling at that time? I find it fascinating because that dude was right on the edge of. I mean, he, whatever you want to say, that word fusion is terrible, but it was this. He understood that the electronic guitars needed to be involved, and he understood that there needed to be, he was, what was like in those live contexts when you were playing Central Park, what was new at that point? Was it the early synth on Cozy's guitar? What was going on that was avant-garde, so if that's the right word to use, in that iteration of his band?
Well, it was a gradually, I mean the stuff at that we recorded in '76 really sounded great. I mean, there was a song that I guess came out of Pete and Reggie knew it, so I guess one of them together they wrote it, and we recorded that, and that's like the most complete track I think of that recording, and it sounds great. I did it with Michael Henderson live. I turned him on to it because he didn't remember it just like a very long time ago,
Right.
and he loved it. And we did it in Milan when we played there in 2012.
Wow.
And I've done it a couple of times since then. And it's it's a guitar-oriented track, and then I come in and play a little melody with it, and then that track features me playing solo for a while, which is like it's great, and the band is burning, and then we did my track, which was sight reading at the studio, and Miles was going to overdub on that. And Miles wrote a little section for it too. He wrote a little vamp that he inserted into it. But in any case, it never got released again. Twice it was recorded for CBS and never released.
Unbelievable. It was and actually it was never released because Miles's horn never appears. He never played on it, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. He never overdubbed. He went into much longer retirement than he initially anticipated. I don't think he came back till like 1990 or something.
That's right. It's such an interesting. And you were right there. What was the thing in the bathtub? Miles was fucking around with our audio just now when you were talking. You cut out a little bit. What was the thing he cut his arm on in the bathtub?
He had a bathroom stairwell that folded up into the wall.
Oh, a stairwell.
And yeah, and I don't know. He fell down and cut his arm on that.
Sam, can you talk a little, not just promoting truthfully, the kind of, when you and Michael and Patrick get together, can you talk a little bit about, what will be different about this kind of live performance? I just crashed at Dr. Gleason's house for a couple of days over the summer, and this was in the works. It was not totally official yet, but he had mentioned that you guys were going to be doing some collaboration together. And I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about what people should be in store for, because this is like, your collaborative relationship stretches back 40 years.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a little different take on it because it's still going to be Patrick synthesizing everything, and he's seems to have a real gift for it. It's a knack. He's playing bass lines that remind me a lot of Michael Henderson.
Right.
But he's playing them. He's not. It's not like it's all recorded, and he's triggering things and making things happen using his software program that he had modified, and it gives it kind of a there'll be like trance-like feeling, trance music that people can, they could dance to it if they want to.
Right. No, there's an ambient trance quality to it. I dig.
Yeah, and plus, Michael's going to bring a whole different take on drums than has been present before.
Can you talk about this is very important. What will be different fundamentally?
Well, Michael's experience and what Michael's done, and his enormous talent on the drums is going to bring something different to the drumming aspect of things. With this, he's not just a jazz drum. Has had leanings towards that, but he encompasses a whole lot of other elements that you can hear in this drum. With that and all the other bands he's had since then. I think it's going to bring a different feel to it. And plus the fact that this is a trio, rather than a large band, is also going to have a different feel. And that this is more synth generated stuff than guitar oriented, which Miles' music became in that period. At least the period I was in, having two guitars in the band. So the so the timbre, tonality is going to be go off in a slightly different direction, I think. I did a band, some concerts with Michael Henderson where we used, guitars and everything recently. This feels like it's going to be different.
Well, also, I mean, can you talk like Gleason's actually playing bass lines on his software? Is there anything that's going to be pre-programmed, or is it all going to be live?
Oh, well, it's all live. I think you'd have to speak to Patrick about that, to get a better sense of that, because all I've heard is the tracks that he's generated and sent me. I've been playing along with him, practicing along with it, but I haven't sent it out to anywhere. Just keeping it all a surprise.
Well, I mean, this is and what kind of, I mean, because this is, and there's no. Are there going to be? Is Michael going to be singing at all, or does he anything? Are there any vocals at all?
No, there won't be. No, there won't be any vocals.
I was going to say, sure what is the? How did you decide, or what's the venue for this trance, funk, jazz music? Where are you going to be doing this thing at?
Well, this concert is going to be at the Royal Room in Seattle. It's the only thing we have booked at the moment. We're working on other stuff, but this is going to be our opening shot.
I dig. No. What I'm trying to get at is like what is, I've never been to that space before. Is it what are the how many people does it fit? Is it like?
I looked it up. I haven't been there either, but it looks like it seats about 150.
Is it like a wine and cheese kind? It's not like Jazz Alley. I mean, is this a place where
I don't know.
You don't. So you don't. Yeah.
I haven't been there before, but I think it's Wayne Horvitz's club, so it's going to be sort of a innovative jazz probably, or more cutting edge kind of stuff. I don't know exactly who they have there.
Right.
This is my first exposure to it, But what we're going to do is Michael might be playing some electronic stuff as well, and I'm using I'll be using my looper to do something, and I'll be using I have effects that I use to play, although I don't use it all the time. But I've been using the effects with I play soprano sax and alto flute over this music. I like soprano because it kind of it occupies the same zone as the trumpet, the higher part.
Right. No, I did. And when you guys what do you guys feel about the R? You've been practicing along to some of the tracks that Dr. Gleason's been sending, but I mean, what do you guys feel about the R word rehearsal? I mean, how much rehearsing do you actually do? I find that the older guard is much more into. I mean, Miles and those cats were like that too, where it was like, just get up and burn, I mean, let's not rehearse this too much. I mean, how
That's probably it. That's probably what you just said is probably the way it's going to go. We'll probably have a little rehearsal first and then just play. Get anything ironed out that has to be, but I don't anticipate a lot. I'm on the East Coast and they're on the West Coast. And I'm going out there for this initial hit to see how it. We'll see how things shape up.
And when is it going to be? When is it going to be? By the way.
When?
Yeah.
September 28th.
September 28th, in Seattle.
Roughly 6 weeks.
I mean, can you talk about what you are? What are you anticipating? Is it just the potential of the unknown? What is the most exciting? What is the thing that you Sam Morrison are most looking forward to, aside from having continued collaborations with these guys that I mean, you guys were marinating in that New York scene post Miles' retirement quite a bit too. I mean, that was a wild time out there. I mean, you guys have been doing a lot of work for a long time together, but what is, at this point in your career, what is the most exciting thing about this gig?
Yeah, it's like getting out there to promote music that I was kind of like made to play, That's it. It's being, this is an awesome opportunity to go out and rediscover this music that's been around for 40 to 50 years. I mean, in the silent way, 68 to 69. You know, so it's a long time ago, and it's just rediscovering it in a new way, which is what, you know, Patrick is bringing to the table here. You know, it's sort of his inspiration that we're, you know, joining in on, and for me, it's the opportunity to do what I've been doing, you know, forever. I do it on live music, or I did it with Michael Henderson, you know, recently, and it went over when we played the Ronnie Scott's in London '09. We played a midweek. We did 3 nights, and the first night there was maybe 20 seats open out of 300 or whatever,
Right.
and the next 2 nights it was sold out. You know, everybody, they loved it. It's just that, you know, going out, the size of the venues and the amount that they're willing to pay and the size of the bands, you know, it's hard to keep it together. You know what I mean? And this, hopefully, we're going to cross over more to electronica. Is what we're going for, I think.
Well, and that's just where
rather than just a straight jazz audience.
Oh, I dig.
You know?
No, I mean that's really where our heads at as a society anyway, is more electronica. Did you? I've done 3 interviews with Mtume. Can you talk about his work as a conga player? I'm looking here. Miles Davis Band, June 11th, 1975, at the bottom line. Miles Davis on trumpet and organ, Sam Morrison on soprano, tenor, and flute, Pete Cozy on guitar and percussion, Reggie Lucas on guitar, Michael Henderson electric bass, Al Foster on drums, and Mtume on congas. You talk about Mtume?
Yeah, Mtume was amazing. He's an amazing conga player. You know, it was you know, a little bit. He wasn't totally enamored with me, friendly, but the way I got hired and everything. But he was cool. He was cool. I always challenged him to a basketball game. He was going to kick my butt, but it never happened. You know, I would love to have done that.
I got to check this out. This is a burning hour and 30 minutes. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is really quite remarkable stuff. I mean, so let's be clear. It's in a silent way, and it's a new take on that music. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, you'll be doing in a silent way, and peaceful it is, and it's about time. I think those are the 3 tracks that we're doing right now. I'm going to do a little bit with a looper, and we're going to, you know, see what else develops as we get together.
You should bring the Echoplex out too.
Well, the Echoplex, I've used the Echoplex before, but I don't have one right now. I've been using something else. We'll see what they have, you know, also when I get out there to see it. I'm sure we'll be able to get anything we want.
Absolutely.
You know, and what else? I use a few effects that I have now, and that I used with Michael Henderson when we played. I've been using them for a few years. But the you know, the main thing is that for me, playing saxophone, you know, and not having Miles in the band, is the soprano occupies the range that Miles would have.
I totally dig it. I mean, I really dig. I wish Michael Henderson would come up and play bass for this gig, you know, and let Gleason just play synths, you know.
It would be fun. I mean, who knows, someday, but in the meantime,
yeah, this is what it is. I mean, and you know what? I'm telling you, it's going to be inspiring no matter what. I really hope that some sort of social media person is there doing some kind of Facebook live streaming. I don't have the dough. Otherwise, I'd literally come up and document the whole freaking night, because people are going to get off on this no matter what. And especially in the, like, it's one thing to, you know, record it, put up some audio tracks in a few months, but like that immediacy of it live on video is just, in this kind of format with the kind of cats that are putting it together, that's what it's about. So I hope that's being addressed, because that's also another way you get some gigs. Yeah,
we'll discuss that, I'm sure.
But no,
I'll bring it up if nobody else does.
Well, Sam, I mean, we've been cooking here for 70 minutes, man. Wow. You know, let's let's reconnect after the show, and I'm sure you'll have some tales to tell. But it was really an honor to connect with you, man.
Okay, great. Thanks for calling and inviting me. This is great.
Yeah, man. And I'll get you a copy. Send me a good pic of you from back in the 72, 74 era, and then I'll put it up for the web post, and I'll get you a copy of this later today. I'll be transcribing some of these stories and blasting them out. So I got Charlie Musselwhite talking to me about the mob in the early 60s, giving him orange sunshine and dosing and it just, I mean, I'm having a ball. So just, you're continuing to add to this stuff, and just keep it going, man. I'm looking forward to hearing about how the gig goes.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Later on, Sam.
So am I.
Peace. Yeah, later. Peace. Just heard from Sam Morrison, decorated horn player, September 28th in Seattle. Him, Michael Shrieve, and Patrick Gleason doing their own interpretation of In a Silent Way. And we'll be back in a silent way, as always, on the Jake Feinberg Show tomorrow or the next day. Till then, peace.
Influences your conscious life, your life here on Earth. And that